We've always suspected this, that the White House, and we know this, that what happens in the White House is really probably just as good as any Real Housewives episode, as any soap opera. But when
especially now.
But when we get to find out what was happening in the White House, that is chef's kiss. And the latest blow up at the White House is reportedly over the Jeffrey Epstein files, or the lack thereof, or lack of information in the Epstein files, as the Department of Justice announced earlier this week. And the blow up comes from between Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and Kash Patel, the FBI director, and the deputy director of the FBI, Dan Bongino. There was a meeting where they were all discussing some things that have come out about the way that the Epstein case has been rolled out to the public.
And Olivia Pope was there.
You know what? She's the only person who is missing from this meeting. It is a fascinating meeting, and now there are people who think that Dan Bongino might be quitting. He did not show up for work on Friday, so whether or not he's coming back remains to be seen.
So Axios broke this story.
Yes.
That there was this blow up at this meeting, and it really does give you a little window to look inside and figure out who's saying what about the Epstein case.
So joining us right now is the man who broke that story, Mark Caputo from Axios. Welcome back to TMZ Live, Mark. How you doing?
Oh, great. Thanks.
So first of all, congratulations on the story. I am fascinated by this because Patel and Bongino were leading the conspiracy theories about Epstein's death and whether there was a client list. And now it just kind of...
Before they were in office.
Before they were in office. And I never thought they would do a flip. But reading your story, it sounds like they almost have, and they're on board with the notion that it was suicide and there's no list.
Well, very much so. The Department of Justice, with the sign-off of the FBI, released a statement and a memo. Axios first reported it, saying there was no client list and there was no suicide of Jeffrey Epstein. And Bongino and Patel himself both acknowledged, accepted, advanced that belief. They've even said it on television. So it is fair to say that their statements or their stated beliefs have gone 180 from the more conspiratorial side of things to the more official side of things, which is, yeah, there's bad stuff happened here. But again, the official position is no suicide, no client list.
So take us into the White House for this meeting, Mark, which happened on Wednesday. Was it before or after? Was the cabinet meeting on Wednesday morning?
I guess it is after the cabinet meeting.
Right,
I must admit, I hadn't put that math together.
Right, the cabinet meeting where Pam Bondi was asked by a reporter about the Epstein files,
And then
President Trump jumped in and how dare you ask, and then she gave the answers she did. And I guess after that, then this meeting happens. Tell us who was there and what it was about.
So Bongino and Kash Patel went into this meeting with Pam Bondi there. I believe it was Bondi who called or had it called Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, and Taylor Budowich, who is the deputy chief of staff. And it was a real heated meeting. And Bongino at one point was accused of leaking or causing to be leaked a story in News Nation that said that he and Kash Patel had wanted to release this evidence sooner, but it just didn't happen. Bongino denied it, to be clear. And then the subject came up of this issue of the video of the cell or the outside of the cell of Epstein's. This was released as a way for the Department of Justice to prove that there was no murder, because it shows no one is going inside of Epstein's cell at the time where he, according to authorities, committed suicide. The problem is this is 10 hours of video, but there's a, quote, missing minute there. And no one caught the fact that there is 60 seconds of this 10-hour period that are gone. And when that video hit the internet and internet sleuths started to look at it, yes, there are some people who spent 10 hours of time watching surveillance video of essentially nothing happening. It blew up and there was tension over it. And the people who were critical of Bongino said, look, you were in charge of this. You were the one who unearthed this video. You brought it to the Justice Department. You said you vouched for it. You reviewed it. How come the 60 seconds is missing? By the way, there is a technical explanation of it. I can bore you with it if you want. But safe to say, The meeting didn't go well. Bongino eventually wound up leaving, not on good terms, and continued to stew about it. On Friday morning, we were told he might resign. Now, we were then told he's not resigning, but he's not at work today, and we'll have to see if he ultimately shows up for work going forward.
I'm confused because you said that he now believes there was no murder and there is no list. But as for the murder, are you saying that Bongino was blindsided, didn't know about the 1 minute that was missing? And if there really is a minute missing, is he back on the conspiracy theory?
I don't believe he's back on the conspiracy theory. I haven't heard that. And obviously, if you're going to go murder someone in a minute, I've never murdered anyone. Maybe I guess you could do it, but that is a very small period of time, in which to hang them. I'm not quite sure. But be that as it may, the reality is, yes, there's a lot of suspicious things about Epstein's death. He was on suicide watch, and yet somehow he wound up committing suicide, according to authorities. So, yeah. However, we have not heard, nor has Bongino stated or implied in any way, shape, or form that he believes that there was a murder. Apparently, he still believes, Kash Patel believes, all the official authorities believe that this was a suicide.
And he's pissed off because he thinks Pat Bondi mishandled it.
Correct. What happened with Bondi is early on in the administration, Bondi said, "I've got the Epstein client list." These aren't her direct words, but responding to a question about Epstein's client list, she says, "I have it on my desk." She said, and she was going to review it, and then she was going to release everything. Well, it turns out, according to them, there's no client list. So it appears, the best we can tell, that Bondi had believed that these things existed, and rather than sort of ascertain the facts ahead of time, shot out of the cannon, made these statements, and then it's sort of clean up on Isle MAGA that's continuing to go on.
Right. So you got to imagine that for Dan Bongino and for Kash Patel, that there are people in their world who are coming after them, right? They're probably getting a lot of heat from the people that they used to when they were just doing podcasts and they weren't actually running the FBI, who are saying, what gives, guys? We talked about this for years, and now it seems like you just abandoned us. So I'm imagining that's the heat that they're feeling, which is leading to this battle at the White House.
Well, yeah, to quote John F. Kennedy, I think, who said that those who ride the tiger often end up inside it. And once you start kind of going down this route, you might have to commit to the bit. Now, I'm not going to comment, or I don't know whether they had these sincere beliefs ahead of time or whether they were just sort of manipulating people. I can't speak to that. I don't have all the facts. I haven't ascertained that. I haven't interviewed them about that. But what we can say is that they made all of these statements as podcast guys and as influencers and as people who had no real authority and had no real responsibility to speak responsibly. Once they got in the FBI, things changed. So bottom line is this: it's a lot easier to podcast and post and say whatever comes into your head than it is to actually govern or work as a sworn law enforcement agent in the FBI.
Well, the other way, look, the other way of looking at that is that when you get into the Trump administration, you better get on board or you're booted. So we're not sure.
Well, it's every administration. I mean, right?
Well, that's true.
That's true.
But real quick, last thing. There's not a list, but Epstein was a guy who loved being around famous, powerful people, and there were a lot of them who cavorted with him in various ways.
Yep.
May not be a list, but
not a client list.
Not a client list, but everything I've seen with the government, with UFOs, with the Kennedy assassination, is we just can't assume they're being transparent. And maybe they're in that file that it may not be a list, a proper list, but there are probably names.
To your point, on Sunday or over the weekend, I did a story about we are still getting documents in the JFK assassination.
Right.
And we're still learning things about people who were involved in CIA operations who contacted, or better said, had contact and were monitoring Lee Harvey Oswald before the assassination, lied about it and covered up about it. And we're only finding that stuff out now thanks to the Trump administration. But the lesson that it has in the JFK files, which is release everything to prevent the conspiracy theories and to help everyone understand something or understand this, they're not completely honoring or following through with the Epstein case. The government has consistently sort of botched the handling of the information, the prosecution, and then the post-death release of all of the documentation that we have about him. And when you have vacuums of information, conspiracy theories fill it pretty fast.
Okay, I'm going to get the last word. There was a conspiracy to kill JFK. It was covered up. The Warren Commission was a sham, and we still don't know. So there. And I've looked at this since I was 16 years old. Okay.
He has lived it,
come
Mark.
back and talk about JFK whenever you get a chance.
I would love to do that with you.
Yeah, next time we have like 2 or 3 minutes. That's all it'll take.
Mark, it's such. We
Thanks,
really,
Mark.
really love having you on. Thank you.
All right, fellas, thanks.
Okay.
Wow.
We are going to take a break.
When we come back, we're going to shift gears a little bit. The Love Island. Yes, we're going from that to Love Island. The finale.
Well, that was kind of, well.
Yeah, the Love Island finale is coming up this weekend. And what kind of future do the contestants have? Not everyone's going to win, obviously, but will they actually be able to make money? Will they have lasting careers after this? We're going to follow the money with our buddy Damon John when we come back.